Russell Wilson has been traded to the Denver Broncos. Tom Pelissero reports that there is a deal in principle to send 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. In exchange for...
All right, back now with you on Total Access with breaking news out of Green Bay. We go straight to Tom Pelissero on the details of what's going on with Davante Adams, who looks like the Raiders are acquiring him from the Packers. All right.
Hello and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. I am RichiRichEh of the MHRT Network, and over to my right is Captain Jack of the Captain Jack Rackham Show on YouTube's and everywhere else where you find quality podcasts. Captain, how are you doing today?
I'm good, other than the buzz, but we won't talk about that. Good to go. I'm glad that the smug son hooked up his mom, because that's all I worried about. Because when I have something that I promise out, I like to make sure it gets done. I'm just saying, because I was more worried about your mom than you were at the time. So that's why I broadcasted. But I'm glad that she got hooked up. Okay. And again, smugness is not slander, but just a couple minutes, we'll get down to that later. But I'll be off mic for a bit.
Fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. You may realize that down directly below here, that is not Coach Defense, which you are used to seeing.
It's not.
No, it's not. I know. I think maybe he grew.
Same blue backdrop, you know.
Couldn't quite tell.
That's right.
But we Coach sadly is not feeling very well today. We wish him the best and hope both he and his family recover swiftly. Coach, honestly, please feel better, and hopefully next week you will be A-okay. However, in his place, drum roll please, we have Bolt Bros' very own Kyle. And for those of you who don't know who Kyle or the Broke Bros are, please go ahead and check them out. Again, where all quality podcasts can be found. Fantastic Chargers content if you're into that sort of thing. So, Kyle, how you doing?
Doing really well. How are you guys? I'm happy to be here. Sorry, I got the word from that coach that he wasn't feeling so well, so I was excited to be on board. Yeah, thanks for having me here.
Fantastic. And of course, the one and only Mr. Smug himself.
Oh, yeah.
Alex Givens, who, again, we've also established that Alex's mom is also in the chat. And perhaps Daddy Smug might even make an appearance later on in the show. That'd be great.
I think he's around. We'll see.
That's fantastic. Alex, how you doing?
Oh, I mean, I'm doing pretty great. Pretty nice to represent the AFC champions and Super Bowl bound Chiefs. So, you know, can't really do worse than that. You know, can't have anything bad go wrong when that's what's going on. So we're doing good.
Oh, just give it 2 weeks.
I mean, hey, I'm gonna bask in this. It's nice, it's good. So I'm gonna enjoy all of it.
You should. You absolutely should, man. It's a good time to be a Chiefs fan for sure.
Bask in the potential.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I will say it's really it's an interesting position I think that you guys are in. I think that you have a team. Yes.
My name is around.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. And I'm glad the nickname did stick. I think that's the important thing, right?
Oh yeah.
But I do think that you guys are going up against in this upcoming Super Bowl a rather versatile team in the Eagles. I think that they have come out on top using multiple different ways of doing so. They have a versatile quarterback, which again can cause some challenges for opposing teams. And it's the Super Bowl, so you know full well that hurt or not, he's just going to go bananas. Their QB there and with Philly. So it'll be really, really interesting to see kind of a head-to-head with the two quarterbacks kind of on opposing sides. Yes, I do realize for all the folks watching today that quarterbacks don't directly face one another. However, we know from direct interviews from a lot of those top-tier quarterbacks and talents out there that when another quarterback that is of a similar caliber to them is on the other side of the field, they personally feel additional pressure to try and play a certain way. And that is, in fact, a thing. So, and I think that Mahomes has definitely got to recognize that the QB on the other side of the team is certainly on the ascension or ascending, if you're going to kind of go in that direction, and continue to success from the year prior. And one would argue, based on where they're currently at in the representing the NFC in the Super Bowl, not only continued but certainly almost progressed.
I mean, absolutely. They were. They were a playoff team last year.
Yeah,
it only got better. So, definitely not going to be an easy matchup with the Eagles. Just like it wasn't an easy matchup with the Bengals, but KC has proven time and time again this year that they are a good football team. So, as much as you guys would like to say they don't belong there, they're there. Patrick Mahomes is that guy. So, it's going to be a good game.
For the record, Alex, our guest has continued our movie reference. We have had at least one on every show. So this is fantastic. We didn't have to prompt him. Good on you, my man.
Oh, I just get started.
That's right.
So I just think that's fantastic. No prompts required. Just fitting right into the four tiles here. That's great. Alex, obviously going back to your victory over the Bengals, I'd be really remiss if I didn't at least bring it up. There's a few things that we need to discuss. Just a few. So we'll start with one.
Start with the W. 23-20.
Okay, fine. Here, let's go through that.
The Super Bowl.
Start there. You won and you're going to the Super Bowl. Okay, we got that out the way. However, there was, I think it would be a fair comment to say that there was at least a couple of rather questionable calls that were made in the game. And I don't care if you're a Chiefs fan or not. Some of those, there's at least two calls that were head scratchers, to say the least. And I also think that the second one, again, for Daddy Smug and other Chiefs fans that are here in the chat with us today, there has been reports, obviously, that the referee, the head ref for the Chiefs-Bengals game is now being investigated.
I don't know where that's being reported.
That was John Hussey, right? Yeah, he's a slimy POS. You can find out a lot more about the referees on the 9:00 show on NFL Nation Live, where we take
an
NFL referee that used to be a referee and talk about the game. So be sure to tune in on NFL Nation Live with Ref Guru, the gentleman I'm talking about, the Hall of Famer violator and this old bastard pirate. But getting back to point, please, I didn't hear about Hussey. Please,
yeah, I don't know about this either. Outside,
Well, there's been some
chat.
Twitter. Well, there's been some Twitter things that
if
are
it's
there.
legit though, bro, it's on
but,
ESPN or Bleacher Report or
right.
a major news outlet, which it's not. So
which I'm willing to bet that there's probably been some false reports.
To say the Chiefs didn't win.
Yeah. So I am willing to say that it's possible that is fake. However, I still don't think it negates those just unreal and more importantly, oddly timed poor calls, because again, it's one thing to have a bad call and then another thing to then have it spread out where there's kind of like another one that's kind of like a yin to the yang to kind of try to even out the game. It is quite another. It's quite another to have, just a one-sided negative play calling, which honestly is kind of what we saw in that game.
So which calls are you referring to?
Well, there was certainly a PI that was questionable, to say one, and then there was a
what PI was questionable.
Well, there's one near the was it near the fourth or in the fourth, if I'm not mistaken. I have to go back and get the actual specific one in terms of the players involved.
Well, while you're thinking about that one, let's get to one that's been burning at me for a while, and it actually occurred when I was doing my show. When you have a 3rd and 6, which turns into a 4th and 9, which goes back to a 3rd and 6. Okay, so that is the inadvertent whistle call, which for Raiders fans and Cincinnati fans came 1 year too friggin' late. When you have an inadvertent whistle. Okay, so you know what, Cincinnati fans? I'm going to say it. The Chiefs made out on that one, but you guys made out on it last year, so you know what? Screw you. Just saying.
I was going to say this. We all played the Chiefs 2 times each this year, and I feel like we've all actually experienced some bad play, ref calls or whatever from the Chiefs. I think, especially in these Sunday night, Thursday night, Monday night games, it's like the NFL loves the Chiefs, tell you that much. But, in the reality is like all these bad calls is just part of football now. It's like, you can't really deny it, and unfortunately, we have to talk about it because there's a lot of questionable calls.
I'm not trying to hide anything, Ed. Yeah. I'm just absolutely kind of amused at this point.
Yeah.
That, it's an AFC West show. We got the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and all you guys want to tell me is why they don't belong there. When they've been to the Super Bowl 3 times, in the Mahomes era, been at the AFC Championship game at home for 5 straight years. But you know what? Yeah, it was the refs that got him there. Not the fact that Mahomes is a good QB or they're a good team. It's the refs.
Smug.
That know what? I don't believe that smugness facts equals smugness though.
Smugness. Just rubbing it in, huh?
This is kind of where I kind of differ a little bit, which is, I'm not even saying that that Mahomes is not a good or even a great quarterback. That's not what I'm saying at all. In fact, I think it's undisputable at this point that he is in the category of great quarterback, given what we've seen, right? I think that's just a fair comment to make. So what I am saying though, is that 2 things can in fact be true. Is you can have a great quarterback, but you can also have some absolute shady, questionable play calling in multiple games, which certainly will raise some eyebrows. Particularly when they're egregious. It's one thing. Every game's going to have a couple calls.
That happens in every game, though.
Every game is going to have a couple
Chiefs
calls.
Have been hosed on calls too. Every team gets hosed on calls. That's just the human nature of having referees, umpires. There's going to be human error. That's not the Chiefs' fault. The 3rd down, what are they supposed to do? They tell them that's what the refs tell them to do. So they're doing it. It's not like nobody knew that they were trying to kill the play. I mean, is that questionable? Sure. But like that's happened in games, especially in Arrowhead, because it's so loud. They're trying to blow a whistle and kill a play and it doesn't happen. And I might add on that drive, the Chiefs didn't even do anything. They gave the ball right back. I mean, they gave Cincy every chance to win. Joe Burrow got the ball back with under a minute and could have very easily tied it. But, he had no time because Chris Jones was in the backfield almost every play. Could have been back there a lot more if they actually called all the holding calls everyone wants to complain about. So, it goes both ways.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense though. Yeah, it does 100% go both ways. Like every team has had a chance of but like Rich was saying, like a yin and a yang. So someone had a bad call on this side, and then it gets kind of equaled out by an equally bad call on the other side. But sometimes that doesn't happen, and that's just all we're saying.
Yeah. Wolfpack gets it. I mean, the Bengals had every chance to win that game. Every chance. I honestly thought they were going to win. It was an exhilarating final 2 minutes of the game, but it was a good game.
Wait a second. Can you say that again? I just want to hear it one more time again.
It was an exhilarating final.
No. Before that.
I don't know what I said before that.
Well, I know exactly what you said before that. I honestly thought they were going to win that game.
I mean, yeah, the Bengals are a good team. I've never said they weren't. I said the Chiefs had to play perfectly to beat them. And I said it was going to come down to the last drive, which is exactly what happened. You wanted to call it smugness, but I was being objective. I didn't deny the Bengals were good. It was a 50-50 game. I mean, they're very much a good team. They're going to be right back in it next year until they got to start paying people.
I like objectively smug. That's a new one on me. But I will say this. The call of roughing the personal foul out of bounds was straight up. That was the right call.
It's terrible timing. I feel bad for that guy because that guy was killing it.
So and again, you can see how on the sideline he was so upset. Now I honestly think, and maybe it looked to me like it wasn't, granted the play is the play, but it looked to me like he was like being not tripped, but he was falling down. And he just, in the act of trying to get his balance, reached out and pushed Mahomes. That's what it looked like to me. But it's still the push out of bounds is a personal foul. I get it.
No, I mean, yeah, that was a bad time play. I mean, like that guy was playing lights out defense. It sucks, and he's like 22 years old, so you can only imagine what he's been going through. But yeah, that was a good call. And I saw someone comment about a blatant hold on the last play. There's been several Hall of Fame left tackles that have explained on Twitter why that wasn't a hold. It goes like that. And, they say it's holding on every play. I played offensive line. I held the shit out of everyone, I did it in here though, which is within the rules. So, it happens on every play. Like I said, if you go back and watch Chris Jones, he got held pretty much, every play too. And he did pretty well in that game, which is what I said needed to be done. He had a career game, 2 sacks, 10 pressures, 5 QB hits. Like that was the difference in the game was Chris Jones. If he didn't perform like that, the Chiefs weren't winning.
I mean, I also think that it's undeniable that Chris Jones is within a top 3 in the NFL at that position. I think at this point here, that's just, you have to just simply accept it. Now, I do think that the Chiefs are going to also need to seriously look at, he's eventually going to start losing a step because you can't play like that forever in the NFL. So they are going to have to start finding a second guy to complement him. Now, frankly, I think when that happens, then the league is going to be put on notice because that'll really, really make that interior line dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, well, and there was talk going into this year about getting rid of, Chris Jones because he's going to be 31. But yeah, he's a game changer. He's right up there with Aaron Donald in terms of being able to physically change a game, on his own. He was getting, I mean, I think there's a stat I wrote down on Chris Jones alone. There's 45 pass plays to the Bengals. He was double teamed on 30 of those. Of those 30 double teams, he won 10 pass rushes, against his two guys. He was blocked 13 times by one person and won 11 of those. So that man was literally in the backfield. I think, and he got triple teamed twice. He was literally in the backfield almost every play. And I knew that, like, you watched the game, the pregame, he's like crying during the national anthem. And I was like, oh man, Chris Jones he's bottled up. Like he's about to go berserk. And he absolutely did, which is what they need. I mean, that's how you beat a QB like Burrow, the guy that knows his offense, knows where everyone's at, knows where the zones are giving him space and gets the ball out in 2 seconds. And he saw, they still moved the ball on him. I mean, they still like that fourth down where they just threw it to Chase, and you're like, man, like that. Only they would have the balls to do that, but like he knew he could do that, But then the other times when they tried to take deep shots, he couldn't because Chris Jones was there, and that truly was the game changing moment for the defense was that Chris Jones showed up. I mean, if he wasn't there, they're running. It's the Bengals back, and we're talking about, we're sitting here, you guys telling me Burrow's better than Mahomes and everything,
Never said that. I want you to cite sources because I never said that.
No, I didn't say. I just said if the Bengals won, that's what we'd be talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, we're not.
No way.
I will say Chris Jones is, like you said, definitely for interior pass rush. Definitely top 3.
And he's, and they use him just like Donald too, where he's like traditional defensive lineman, but he doesn't always line up on the inside. I mean, they move him around everywhere, and whatever. It's always funny too when he's mic'd up. He's like constantly. He's one of those. He chirps, so he tells people where he's going and still blows them up. Like there's actually a clip from this game where he goes up to the center when they're changing a protection and tells them I'm going right there, and then just ear holes them. So he's a different cat now, but. Yeah, that's the way you gotta. That's the mentality you have to be so successful in a position like that. I mean, you look at all your guys. Look at your Aaron Donalds, your the good offensive linemen. They're all a little off. It's just a different world. But I mean, I fully believe he was the biggest difference maker. I mean, the defense as a whole was, especially you consider L'Jarius Sneed goes down first drive. So they're without their corner and have a bunch of rookie, 5th to 7th round picks out there who are, for the most part, playing pretty well, against T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and what is probably one of the better passing, attacks in the league. Although you don't know how well that would have been if Chris Jones wasn't doing what he was doing. So, it all came together nicely. But I mean, in my opinion, for the identity that KC has of being a highly explosive offense. Granted, it was a limited one with Mahomes and the injuries that happened on that end, but I mean, the defense really showed up, and that's what they're going to have to do, if they want to win another Super Bowl, is play just like that. Which I don't see them not. So,
I got to ask you, Alex, because you brought it up. You said that. Did I hear you correctly? Like Chris Jones is not signed for next year, or is there like
No, he is. No, they were talking about, like a salary dump, like getting rid of him, trading him somewhere.
Okay.
Kind of in that. But I mean, you can't get rid of a guy like that.
No. I mean, you need your head examined if you're going to do that.
But that was going into the year when they were kind of in sell mode, at least with regard to Tyreek. So they did that, but
you can't get rid of somebody. Like the problem that you had, or the thing you had with Tyreek is that you still had Kelsey, you still had Mahomes, and as long as you brought in average to above average wide receivers in free agency, you still had an offense that had the potential to be okay if you could adjust properly to what you were planning on doing this year, which you did, and that is run the ball better.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's totally fair, right? However, outside of Chris Jones, who do you really have on your defense?
Well, we got playoff Frank Clark. He's he's good for like 3 to 4 sacks in the regular season, but will for sure get 4 in the
postseason.
postseason. I mean, Frank Clark.
He's good
Frank
for about
Clark,
3 or
for his
4
regular
weapons in his
season
car too,
stats.
right?
Frank Clark, for his regular season stats, is 5th all time in playoff sacks, behind 4 Hall of Famers. And I mean, that just goes to show. I mean, the guy shows up in the playoffs for his. Why? I mean, is beyond me. Why he can't always do it, but he's shown up. He showed up big time when they won against the 49ers in 19. He was a huge factor and got him a second contract. That's why he's still there. So I mean, he definitely has been a presence. Karlaftis has constantly been improving. He got a sack on Burrow as well for a first-round rookie. I mean, the fact is that the amount of draft picks that they spent this last offseason on defensive players, all of them majorly contributed in that game. You had Josiah Williams with the pick. You had McDuffie with 2 to 3 really clutch deflections. It's kind of crazy. I realized as the game went on, for how good Burrow is, like that dude's accuracy. He's definitely nice. Brought the whole family in now. We're full circle. The Smugs.
Is that like your brother?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I know. I was like, I don't know if that's your brother or like a cousin. Like, again, the last name doesn't necessarily mean 100% that you're right.
Deep. Yeah. No, that's my brother.
Nice.
Very nice.
But yeah, I mean, back to what I was saying though, is like all the rookies have really improved as the season's gone on, and in the playoff games came up big time. I mean, Trick McDuffie's looked at every bit of the real deal against, teams' number 1, number 2 guys. They had a lot of key deflections against Burrow. Because that's what I was saying is Burrow is, I think, probably the most accurate QB in the league. Because all of his incompletions were more because his guys just didn't catch him. Like, he's hitting them in the hands. He hit Jamar Chase in the helmet on like a 60-yard throw. And then you kind of notice the Chiefs defensive back stop kind of playing the ball, but going where they thought the receiver was going to try to catch it. Like they weren't, it was just interesting, but every time Burrow's right on the money. So, I mean, huge play from the guys that stepped up with Snead going down. I mean, they, for not having a whole lot of big names, they've showed up when they've needed to. I mean, I said going into it that the Chiefs were going to have to rush for 125 yards to even have a chance to win the game. They ran for like 45, and that's because the defense was making clutch stops. So there was a lot of times where I'm like, they have to score on this drive. I think my dad actually the whole game was saying they lost it. He's like, they lost it there. Because like Bengals are going to score and they're not going to be able to catch back up. And then for defense for the Spags, the way he was calling, they were just able to stop the Bengals when they needed to as well, and kept it a close game to come down to the end. And my favorite part of the game, just with how the season went, was kind of the ending being a little redemption for Harrison Butker and Sky Moore. Because you had Harrison Butker, who Chiefs fans hated all year because I think he missed like 10 kicks. There was at least one game that if he made one field goal, they won. And for him to come out there and hit the game winner at 45 yards or whatever when all of that has gone on was huge for him. And then you got Sky Moore, who's I think fumbled 80% of the punt returns that he had, got doghouse, didn't even play half the year, and because of injuries to Tony and Hardman. He had to return that last punt and then proceeds to take it 30 yards and put him almost immediately in field goal range. So I thought that was the coolest way to end it with the two guys that kind of had the most negative light, as the regular season went on.
I think that's fair. And you never want to see a young guy like Sky Moore. I mean, obviously put in a ton of work into the season, put a ton of work to try and get to where he is. And you hate to see a young guy come into the league and just immediately bomb. I mean,
yeah, no, he was,
like the toll that takes on the young guys, because the NFL is just such a different beast to college that you get like 2 or 3 shots as a young guy that's kind of deeper on the depth chart like that, and if you blow through those 3 shots.
It was bad. Like, I mean, I think he had like 3 weeks in a row where they were like, he's gonna get reps back there, that gets some exposure, and he fumbled the punt. And And I thought that was, for how many times the special teams has kind of screwed them over in games, or making games close, like the Texans and, stuff like that, that games that come down to the end. It was nice that the special teams, pulled off the win for them, or set them up to pretty much do it.
No, I agree. So I think I am very much looking forward to seeing the Eagles winning another Super Bowl. And it's going to be really remarkable.
At the end of every show, I ask you to predict the Chiefs off, because so far you've been wrong. So keep it up.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I know you are traditionally used to us running a 3-point stance as we're kind of coming into the week ahead. However, the week ahead coming up is the Pro Bowl, or the running around in shorts and pretending to play football. However, as a result of that, we will have our Eagles 3-point stance next week, who we actually have lined up the Philly sports guy. If you know who that is, you cannot miss him. He is completely decked out with face paint and the whole bit. Awesome dude. Love it.
Have no clue who you're talking about. Never seen him. Don't know anything about him.
Mm-hmm.
So, honestly, a great guy, and has some fantastic insight into his Eagles. Alex, I'm sure you'll be waiting with bated breath to hear what he has to say. But in fairness, the Eagles are a spectacular team this year, so I do think it'll be a great.
It's each number one team from each conference going against each other, and I mean their defense. You saw they hurt 2 QBs. They literally made the 49ers contemplate putting Christian McCaffrey at QB. So I'm glad
I thought McCaffrey was it, because again I watched apologies, I didn't watch the end of the game because I was listening to it. And I thought that McCaffrey
I think they did put him in, but they kept Purdy out there too. But like you could tell he couldn't throw. Obviously, he has to have Tommy John surgery. So although it's kind of savage, you look on Twitter, a bunch of people were like, "Purdy he's not hurt. He just didn't want to get hit anymore. Like he's faking." And I was like, "Dang!" Like he got this dude as the last pick of the draft, and probably was really hoping to have a Tom Brady-esque start to his career, and
it doesn't matter.
He ensues there,
Doesn't matter. Despite all that, the guy has killed it.
Oh yeah. I mean, literally, he's making them think about getting rid of the guy they traded up to draft.
I know.
Yeah, as a dude they took last in the draft, they're probably like, "F it, there's no one else I want. Take that QB."
Yeah,
whatever. Like, and here he was. But yeah, I mean,
he is really he's shot.
The Eagles pass rush though is lethal. I mean, I think that they're tied with the 85 and 86 Bears for most, tied or like right behind them for most sacks in a season. They have like 80 as a team, which is friggin' ridiculous.
That's silly.
And that's why I'm glad there's a little 2-week delay to let Mahomes' ankle heal up. I mean, there are at least positive reports that he didn't set anything back in the game. And I mean, the Chiefs have a good offensive line. That's what they invested in after they lost to the Bucs in the Super Bowl. I mean, it made that a priority so that Mahomes wouldn't have to run around and throw Matrix style an inch from the turf, and could maybe stand in the pocket and complete some balls. So I think it's going to be a fun matchup. But yeah, I mean, Eagles are a squad. They're a good team. I love the Jalen Hurts' career, just how it went for him in college and where he's at. It's a lot of good storylines heading into the Kelsey Bowl.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think we can move on and kind of talk about some of the changes that have recently been made in the NFL in our division, obviously, which is why you're all here. Again, just before we move on to that, I just want to thank all of you for joining us today. We've a very lively chat, which is spectacular to see. And if you all want to ask your questions about the coaching changes in the division, we will bring those up and answer and address those in as timely a fashion as we can. I'm going to throw over to our resident now backup Chargers guest here on the show, and Kyle from Bolt Bros. Believe it or not, he can actually see with those glasses on. I have in fact asked him. I have in fact asked him if he can. Apparently, he can see the screen. What do you think about your new OC? I have to ask you the one thing. There was I know I sent it to you guys, but apparently Herbert's going to be made into the new Dak Prescott.
Hey,
yeah. Did the Chargers hire Casey Affleck?
Yeah, right. I'm like, what is that? First of all, it's a picture of Casey Affleck. It's like, there's no way that that's actually a real quote from him. So, like, I'm like, come on, guys, come on. No, I'm actually really excited about Kellen Moore because he's done a lot of good things with the Cowboys. Like, even when Dak Prescott was not on the field, like this year alone, he still found a way to win with Dalton. Like they went 4-1 with him under center, and so that's fantastic to see. Is like the QB2 coming in and still making things happen. Me and my brothers went back and forth on that one for a little bit this whole week, and we can't be more excited about him because it seems like from everything that we've seen, he actually does something that a coach should do, and that is make adjustments in the second half, because that is not what we've been seeing all year. Like the first half is great. We do awesome. No adjustments made. We just completely wet the bed. And that's going to be huge for us because apparently the Cowboys they were like in the top 5 of scoring in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. I think they were like, they were high in the top 5 too. So I can't remember exactly which one it was. So we're looking forward to this drastic change from Joe Scumbardi, so yeah.
Yeah. I've been talking to Coach about it. I thought it was the right guy to, the right move to make, especially with Herbert and, getting someone that's a more vertical attack.
Yeah.
And I said, I think, he was, because I was kind of asking him, what you guys want to prioritize in the off season. He said he was talking about, getting a running back.
Yeah. Well, you know what that was
answer that first.
Yeah. Hey, but it was a game that didn't matter. Right. It was a game that didn't matter at the same time too. So it's
say who made the playoffs though? Did the Broncos make the playoffs, or did they have to spend all their first round picks for a QB and coach?
Yeah. Yeah. So how many picks does the Broncos have over the next 10 years? Like
none.
2?
They rolled back prices on the picks.
No, they really do. Hey, actually, I was thinking about that too. Is they easily could do the Rams method and just F them picks, and that could actually do well for them. It took the Rams a couple years to get it right though. So I don't see it as a bad idea as well. I mean, getting a draft pick is
that's fair. You did.
That's fair. That's fair.
I have blinders on for that part.
I think what sucks the most about that game is that even though the game didn't matter, but we still played our starters and mofos got hurt, and so that's what's like. Come on, guys, why the hell would the coach do this? That was just maddening. So yeah, exactly right.
Well, no, hold on. You have to look at the odds, and the odds were in your favor by doing so. So we actually spoke about that on this pod.
I'm sure you guys did. Yeah.
Same thing. If you look at the odds of you winning in the playoffs by not playing your starters, it is astounding, the statistic on it. It is something like the 90-something percentile that you will lose the next game if you don't play your starters in the last game.
But we still lost.
In fairness, and I hate to do this to you, but that was just the Chargers chargering.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's all right. It's a saying for a reason,
Yeah,
I agree with I do agree with Chokers. I do agree with Madungus that I think that they kind of hired Kellen Moore as a potential coach in waiting if Staley, doesn't. I mean, obviously, the guy's a hot commodity.
Yeah.
He's kind of, I said to Coach, kind of been like the Eric Bieniemy, like has all the interviews, never gets a job.
Yeah.
And I wonder if part of that's because he's kind of been under it's like, well, how much of it is him or McCarthy? Right. And so maybe he got out to kind of fix that as well. But I mean, I think that was a perfect hire. Given some of the names that were being tossed around, like Joe Brady and
Right.
and whatnot. They landed a pretty good OC. I mean, I'm excited to see what he does with Herbert.
Great
And
pickup.
hopefully, I mean, and the guy gets the most out of his running backs. I mean, look what he did with Pollard and Elliott this year. And, Eckler's a good pass catching threat. So, I think it's I wish they would have hired someone dumber, on all honesty, but
yeah.
I guess that'd be something, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's very awesome to see that we actually got a good hire like that, because you're right, because he actually does have a solid run game established, and in fact he actually used Pollard more than Ezekiel Elliott, because and they actually talked about a lot about that.
He's
like
a free agent.
Yeah, he's not really. They're not going to be like, well, at the same side, like they talked about how, like, in an interview recently, that they aren't going to look at the draft priority choice or the salary priority choice. Like, it's like whoever is actually doing a better job is going to be out there running the plays more. However, like, I mean, they did talk about how, like, I mean, we just look around the league. There is no running back that is like a 25 carries running back anymore. Like, it's just too long of a season to actually make that happen. Like, yeah, we can get maybe 20, maybe like, in the high teens or something like that, but they're going to have to switch it off. And we have two actually pretty solid running backs. I really like Joshua Kelly is actually pretty good, and he's actually gotten a lot better. Hopefully we'll keep him. Maybe not. We'll see. But we got some up and comers, but to kind of back up with Eckler. So, and once Kellen Moore actually finds, gets to know the personnel better and gets to know who we actually have, and obviously none of our teams are going to be the same as they were this year, next year. So, like, that's just a given. So we'll have to see what happens and what shakes up. I mean, maybe we'll draft a running back, maybe we'll draft a wide receiver or a tight end, and that could change everything. So, but yeah, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what our offense is because of what Kellen Moore has done with the Cowboys. And and he ain't going to be Dak Prescott.
I roll with the blur.
No, I think I actually think you're. I think you guys got a good OC. I do think that what we have seen from him, and he needs to kind of show that this is not a trend, is that he's gone through lulls.
Yes.
Where it's almost like he's having problems or like a mental block or whatever. I don't know how you want to call it, but he's gone through lulls in his OC tenure.
Yeah.
And you've seen this like wow factor, and then it's just like,
yeah. I mean, we all saw the last play of the of their playoff game, right? So of the Cowboys playoff game, we saw him put Ezekiel Elliott at center.
Yeah.
Right. So I do think that he'll have to address that if he wants to actually see the Chargers succeed. Otherwise, frankly, I think that our division plays too hard and too close with one another.
Yeah.
I just think it's just, even the Chiefs having won as much as they have, all of these games are still within typically a score so.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And there's normally at least several points in the game, even with teams that are having losing records in the division, where there's a spot normally in those games where we play the Chiefs, where you're even with the Broncos that sucked this year, we were still within either 3 points or winning.
I don't think they had a very large margin win against any team, except for the Raiders in the last week, 31-13.
Yeah.
The last week. And yeah, it's true. Last week against the Raiders, they smoked us. But I recall a 1-point win in Kansas City.
That is true.
But my point is that our division plays too closely to allow a lull in play calling from an offensive coordinator.
Right.
If you start pulling that kind of stuff in our division, it's not going to work. And frankly, if you're going to be honest, like, you got to look at, like, even the Raiders defense is better in the defensive front than they showed this year. Max Crosby is the real deal at his position. He is incredible.
Speaking of that, he also called Joey Bosa a giant crybaby. So
Yeah,
I know.
I like Matt Crosby even more now.
Yeah, I do. And this is Max Crosby to me is like Rob Gronkowski. I hated, and I mean hated, the New England Patriots, but it was near impossible to dislike Gronk.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard. I mean, he's in Eastern Michigan, like he's not from a big school. You know, he wasn't drafted early, and he's one of the best pass rushers in the league. You know, hard to hate him,
and that's exactly what my problem is that it's very, very difficult to dislike Max Crosby because you never hear him come out and say, "Oh, I got held," but meanwhile you see him get held on like a boatload of plays.
Yeah.
Right. And then the only thing he does next time is, I'm going to try harder and try to rip your head off.
Right.
And that's exactly what you want from a football player.
Exactly. You know, and it is really unfortunate that Joey Bosa is such an emotional player like that, and he just complains about things, and that's really why we got that unsportsmanlike conduct. You know, he's just, I don't know, he's not.
They're not wired right. I told you.
Yeah.
French players are always off. Their ticket's just a little different.
You know? Yeah, exactly. You know, so
I know you saw that video of him in Philly. That was,
I sure did.
I love that he's drinking a Bud Light seltzer. That's the best part about the whole thing. And he's like, I can afford the fines.
Yeah. I mean, the realistic. I mean, you know, sometimes he is for sure. You know, like I ain't gonna deny that. You know, he's a great player when he's actually healthy. But
Kyle,
out of 7 years. Out of 7 years, he's only played 3 full years. You know, he's just, you know, he's a big baby sometimes. You know, it's got to be real. Like, you know, like that's just the way it is.
And this is how you know that there's a real problem with him. His girlfriend didn't even come in and say, "No, that was my drink."
Yep, that's right. So drinking seltzers and stuff. Like, oh my gosh.
She's like, dude, I want nothing to do with that. I drink proper drinks.
I saw it on Twitter. I clicked on it to like see the replies, and the first one was someone zoomed in on his drink and like blew up the picture, and it's just like a black cherry Bud Light seltzer.
Oh
like,
my
dude,
gosh.
big.
I mean,
hey, if you're gonna have something good, at least drink some Grand Marnier, man. That's some nasty stuff, man.
Yeah.
But I actually find that both of the Bosa brothers are a little off, a little overly emotional, and part of me almost wonders if that's also part of the reason why they both get hurt so often.
Yeah,
because like they go a million miles an hour when they're on the field.
Yeah,
but what they're doing off the field shows a complete and total lack of discipline.
Yeah. Oh, I mean that's a very good point. Yeah,
and so you start to wonder.
I'll give you one word as to why they both get hurt a lot. Steroids.
I missed what you did all before that.
The camera.
It froze during all your movements.
The camera censored.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go there.
Take us through your
I wouldn't say that much.
I was doing like a horse maneuvering and so apologies if my camera froze, but
I'm not going to go there because I don't think that that's their problem, but I do think
they're both just emotional players.
Yeah, they're very emotional.
They are successful. They feed off of their emotion to be good.
They play angry and they channel that in order.
That's how they respond. You know, they respond with just psychoness, and then you get them out in a domesticated situation, and it's like an asset out of containment. You know.
Yeah. Right. I will say this though, at least he wasn't holding like a Smirnoff Ice or something like that. You know.
Still had a black cherry seltzer, man.
I know.
Hey, it's less calories. You know, he's got to watch his girliest figure.
Walking around with like $1,000 bottle of champagne or something. Like at least show you got some money.
Right.
That could have been me.
Well, he just paid some guy's salary and fines, though. You know, so like.
Yes, but Alex, he didn't need to do that because he already showed he has really poor taste for 2 reasons. One, did you see the hooker boots that were on that person? And two, on top of that, in addition to that, He's drinking a seltzer. All right, like
not even a White Claw or something
No,
good.
no, like,
It's a
he's
Bud
drinking
Light
a
one.
A Bud Light seltzer, not
Yeah.
like a
He had
Yeah,
like
like-
the
Not
he had
a-
like the Keystone Light of seltzers, you know. Like,
yeah. I'm sorry. The answer to that is just no. He has basically been disqualified from most conversations with that and that alone.
Yeah, I mean, how can it? Oh my gosh, I know. Like honestly, like this is a reason alone just to trade him because he's like, you know what, like, you're drinking the wrong stuff. That's why you keep getting injured. Like you're getting
yeah,
cramps
he
out
said-
there.
He
that
said,
would
"I'm not
honestly make
crapping
it
on
the greatest
seltzers."
social media.
Yeah,
I love
what's that?
seltzers.
Could you imagine
My
the
names
Chargers
are the
social
shit.
media post?
Oh yeah, if he gets traded, yeah.
Could you imagine the Chargers social media post?
What-
We traded
What's a
Joey
happy
Bosa.
bad seltzer?
Reason seltzer.
Reason to
Black
drink
cherry
seltzer.
seltzer. Yeah,
Not salary cap,
Wow,
not
man.
injuries. Seltzer.
yeah. Seltzer
The
cap.
Spanos family has finally found the reason why they're going to get rid of Bosa, and it's because he's drinking a black cherry seltzer.
Do you think that what is the Chargers cap situation like though? I mean, are they gonna have to be renegotiating or cutting someone like a Keenan
It's-
Allen or
I mean, yeah, honestly, I think me and my brothers actually may have been the ones to start that conversation about maybe because like we're 20 over the cap, 20 mil. So it's, I mean, obviously, the salary cap is a myth, is that's what Pat McAfee keeps saying, So, and they can always borrow from next year or whatever like that. It's kind of like timeshare points or something like that, but I feel like
pyramid scheme.
yeah, it's all MLM, So yeah, and I feel like, I mean, if something's gonna happen, it's gonna be shocking, Like, I mean, Bosa might go, Keenan Allen might go. If that's gonna happen, I don't think it will, because those guys are such staples to the Chargers right now, Like and they've been around since San Diego, so like I know a lot of people don't want to see that, but I mean, hey, at the same side, I mean,
Business, man.
it's business, and like if we can get some solid capital off of Bosa or Keenan Allen, still, I don't think it's a bad idea. So there's a lot to be said if you switch, you get rid of one player who's getting paid $20 million a year and get two players that are getting $10 million a year. Why the hell not? Or a couple that are getting paid $5, like that are on the rise. So.
Of course.
Yeah.
And
I think
of
if they
course,
want
the
some
thing about
draft
that is at
capital,
least one of them will drink a Guinness, which is a man's
Yeah,
I do think if they want draft capital, they got to move Bosa. Then
Yeah.
I think Keenan Allen or really maybe like Khalil Mack. I think it's a renegotiate or just outright cut.
True. Yeah,
but
I know that,
it'd
and
be
that's what a lot of
interesting.
people do think that we might get rid of Mac, but I don't. We just signed him, and he and Brandon Staley are like pretty close, So I don't see us getting rid of Khalil Mack anytime soon. So
Yeah, I mean, not after just made a move for him,
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah,
it is.
Kyle, I did want to go back to one other question for you.
Oh,
with
sure.
regards to your coach. Something that I am genuinely curious about. What is your issue with your OC as you look at your offensive roster? So what is one thing that you see as a disconnect in terms of what Moore likes to do and what you currently have?
Yeah. I don't really know. I mean, I don't really know if he actually does a whole lot with tight ends. But we don't really have many great tight ends right now. I mean, yes, we got Gerald Everett, he's pretty dang good.
Somehow good.
Yeah, he's still good.
That one play against the Chiefs when he was just really tired.
Yeah, exactly. Oh gosh, don't remind me about that one. Yeah, bringing back bad memories. Yeah, like honestly, like I see him actually as pretty much a really good improvement to Joe Lombardi as well, though, because there is a lot more slant routes that I believe that Kellen Moore does put out, but he does also do those stick routes that we're so accustomed to seeing as well, which is possibly needing to change if that's going to be the case, But personnel wise, I think we got everything that he needs to be successful here with the Chargers, both running backs and wide receivers, but tight ends is my iffy situation there. Obviously we got the quarterback for him, and we're just and the bigger thing is, I mean, our line needs to be addressed a little bit more, I think, too. That's gonna be a free agency situation probably. But
I mean, I don't know. The line, the line, if everyone's healthy, is one of the better ones in the league, especially with the what's it, Sailor or Slater?
Yeah, we got Slater, who we drafted.
Yeah.
And
well,
then,
yeah, but the guy
Stallier,
Stallier. I mean, that guy
was
was a pretty high quality tackle for being a rookie that was like third or later round. So
I think he had like and he had like 5 games that he didn't give up a single sack or whatever like that. And that was I mean. That's great.
I told Coach I think they just got to get more depth in terms of receivers. Because like you look at you look at like KC, right? Like they have like 6-7 receivers on like their roster practice squad, and like all of them somehow get activated. But then you got like in the last game, I mean, the top 3 went out, and Mahomes was still able to get stuff done because they had some decent options behind him, not like 1B guys, but I think if the Chargers just had a little more outside of Williams, Allen, and Palmer, just like 1 or 2 extra guys, they would have had a little bit different different outcome in some games. I mean Herbert's every bit up there in skill set with Mahomes and Burrow and Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. I mean, he clearly was putting up stats with like guys off the street. So, you get them some decent options so that when stuff like that happens, there's not a massive setback.
Yeah.
No, exactly. The other problem you guys have had is that you've kind of squandered Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is he's a veteran guy that knows he's kind of in the back 9 of his career.
Yeah.
And the Chargers have not gone out to get a guy that can kind of – it was similar skill sets, I guess is kind of where I'm going with that. And the best teams, like truly the best teams in the league that seem to be perpetually in an upper tier, Ravens are kind of in that general vein in my mind. Where they always just seem to be super competitive. It doesn't matter what year or whatever. They just are – they're always halfway. Like they're always good, right? Yeah, they're just always a good team.
Yeah.
And those types of guys churn in these kind of second tier that are just below the starters, and they try to match them. And they try to continuously churn through the depth, and they try to continuously do it. Chargers have not been good at that.
Yeah. Oh, honestly.
Yeah.
Depth,
they don't really have the next man up,
Depth has always been our problem, and I credit that to Tom Telesco by far, our general manager. He's just like terrible at like good freaking at just depth. Like he doesn't pick good late round picks. And the only reason why we had such a amazing free agency like off season is because of our coach Brandon Staley. He just went out and told them, these are the guys that I need for this team to win and to get us to the playoffs. And sure enough, we got to the playoffs. But the only downside, to the other side to that argument is that our depth did get us to the playoffs because we played without Mike Williams and without Keenan Allen for, was it like 6 or 7 games? And so we still were winning even with our beaten up team. We were like the most injured team in all of NFL history. I feel like, well, no, not history, but like at least this year for sure by salary cap as well. So
no, Broncos beat you.
Did we? Oh God.
Yeah. Actually on both.
On both? Oh my gosh.
So we
but you guys were neck and neck there, Richie, like I said, because they would get injured and then you'd have to one up them by having one other guy get injured that week.
Both teams definitely went through some pretty bad spurts of the injury bug, man.
But you know what? That's just the AFC West for you. Like we beat each other up like constantly all year round, and it's just the way it is. But somehow we just, but then of course the refs were a little easy on Patrick Mahomes, so like they didn't call him.
Well,
just a little bit.
He still got hobbled despite all of that. So in fairness, it's not like he's came out all peachy. He still got himself hurt as a result. So moving
Greatest
on.
play Arden Key, the Raider, ever made. And he made it as a Jaguar. The greatest play he ever
Dang.
made as a Raider, and he made it as a Jaguar. Just saying.
So I do think it's about time that we move on to my Denver Broncos, and one of the bigger pieces of news that came out of the NFL, and certainly the bigger of the kind of two coaching hires, and that is my Denver Broncos hiring Sean Payton, who, funnily enough, unless there's actual credible evidence that comes out, was our third option.
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez.
One of D'Amico Ryan's, right?
No, so number one was Harbaugh, apparently.
Okay.
Oh, out of
And
Michigan?
He was Ryan.
And in Michigan.
Yeah.
And if you remember all the, like, so as I understand from the timelines that have actually been kind of publicly made available, and some of like this isn't just like random rumors from random folks. This is like, you saw it from Schefter, and you also saw it from and Rappaport and stuff as well. I mean, these are well-versed, well-connected guys within the NFL. There was a flight that happened where, at the very least, our CEO or president CEO flew out to Michigan to try to re-recruit Harbaugh, and was told no.
Yeah. I think Harbaugh just used that to funnel more money out of Michigan.
Probably, I think so.
Because he had his first meeting, and then it was like the next day he got more money and was announced he was staying.
Yeah. So he's back. He's back in Michigan. He said no, and then the next apparent one was D'Amico Ryans, who seemed to be a consensus favorite amongst Broncos fans. We liked the energy. We liked kind of, all that kind of stuff about him. Only major concern is he would be a first-time head coach, and we've kind of already gone through that experience this past season. And then you start questioning at that point, if you're going to be honest, how is he going to manage Russell Wilson, given that he doesn't have a resume to kind of back up things at the head coaching position. And that would have been my major concern with D'Amico Ryans personally. Obviously, I don't, not everyone's going to have the same concerns I do, but that would be my concern. He said no again and reconfirmed that he was going to the Texans. And then we went on to option 3, apparently, and we went to Sean Payton.
See, I think that Payton was their first choice. They just didn't like the compensation that would go with it. They tried to find a cheaper, a more reasonable option. And then when that didn't materialize, they went. But because I think Payton was leaked to them before the season was even over. And then Harbaugh came out of nowhere, and David Shaw, the old Stanford coach, just some weird names that were
no, that's not a weird name. There's heavy Stanford ties to the Denver organization.
Oh yeah, Elway.
Elway went to where to go? Oh, that's right, he went to Stanford.
I kind of forget about Elway.
But Shaw, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Shaw and Peyton Manning have a relationship as well.
Shaw was one of the guys in Indianapolis as an OC quarterback coach years ago
with Caldwell or
it was Shaw, and then the other guy and Pepper or
Pagano.
The other guy Pepper, he has the funny name. That came after Shaw. That was the OC quarterback coach. The guy was in his ear for the OCs in Indianapolis. I'm sorry,
Pagano?
I can't remember his name.
Not Chuck Pagano, right?
No. A black OC quarterback guy. Pep Hamilton. Thanks, Bourbon. I knew. Pep Hamilton. That was after Shaw, but Shaw has history with Indy from years ago. Shaw was also with the Raiders years ago, as was Harbaugh. So it's an AFC West thing for all of them, all those guys.
Right. Go ahead.
Well, and I wonder too, just reading some of the stuff about D'Amico Ryans. I wondered how much too was the How much like ownership wanted to be involved, dealing with Russell Wilson versus going to Houston. That's kind of a blank slate. Who is a franchise that drafted you and has 15 picks in the next, 2 years. I wonder how much that played a factor because every team with a head coach vacancy interviewed him, and he was one of the first ones. So, you knew he was going somewhere. And I wonder how much of that played a factor with some of these guys, even Harbaugh, maybe. Like I said, I really think Harbaugh just used that news to finesse more money out of Michigan. Because I don't see why he would leave when he can keep, not really winning anything that Michigan's, I guess, traditionally known for, and somehow get a raise. We want to go to Denver, but I wondered how much of that, if the owners wanted to be more involved, given kind of what they bought into last year, or if Patton wanted to be more involved, or if Russ wanted to have a bunch of say in the offense, and if that kind of steered some guys away. I haven't read any stuff like that. It's just kind of, outside looking in thoughts on how the process sort of played out, just keeping up with it.
I just think that it was the compensation that they've already sold the house, the farm, the creek, the jet plane, the runway, the Russell Wilson. So now they have to sell the ex-wife's house, the third wife's house, and the fourth wife's house to get Payton over there for compensation, and that they just didn't want to go that route. So they talk about mortgaging your future. They mortgaged several lifetimes, so it better work. I think it can, but it better work.
Yeah,
I agree. Payton, I typically don't watch this show, but I happened to catch it because Payton was actually a guest, and obviously to try to keep up on some of the stuff I thought was important. Sean Payton was on Colin Cowherd's show, where he was doing a pretty, not a detailed, but certainly breaking down his issues that he was seeing with the Broncos offense and how Wilson was being integrated, and also calling out Russell Wilson for his problems and his issues pretty aggressively, actually. And in fact, so much so that I was like, well, I'm not sure if that one's going to work out as a head coach, because Russell Wilson is equally as famous for being a quarterback as he is just for being a general celebrity now with his marriage to Sierra. So you start to wonder whether or not, having that kind of negative comment by a guy who's potentially your head coach may actually impact that relationship. But I think I've said on the show before, I truly believe that Sean Payton is really the only head coach that was really within this cycle, with the exception of Jim Harbaugh, that had the pedigree as a head coach and the record as a head coach that could actually go to Russell Wilson and say, sit down, shut up, and listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harbaugh just had to say, I went to Super Bowls with Alex Smith, and Sean Payton just has to say Drew Brees,
Yeah. Yeah.
And honestly, I always thought Sean Payton was the guy, given the commitment they made to Russ, because of how he's physically set up. And Russ has always been a good a good accurate thrower, especially on deep balls. It kind of went away this last year, but you got to think that that's there. But either way, you saw Payton kind of progress Brees into more of a get the ball out quick, just, take completions, get, 4 yards, and let's just move the ball. And I think if he can successfully kind of get Russ to play like that, that's a pretty quick and easy way to right the ship, for what they gave up to bring Russ in, So I thought that was the smartest hire. It just sucks what they had to give up on top of it to bring him in.
I'm going to tie in two of the division rivals, the gentlemen that are directly below me here in my next comment here, and I'm interested in your takes on it. So but what you're suggesting, Alex, would be the equivalent of me saying to you, stop having Mahomes throw the long bombs down the field and leverage his athletic / arm angles as he's throwing the ball, because he's holding on the ball too long to try and make those long throws, and he's now getting sacked more. On the flip side, that'd be like me going to Staley or now Moore, who's there, and saying, no, forget the fact that Herbert can throw the ball a country mile and have long flowing hair while doing it. Forget all that. Let's just have him dink and dunk the entire time, and let's try to push him in that direction. To me, I don't think forcing someone to change who they are is necessarily the best thing to yield the greatest success from someone. That also doesn't mean that I disagree with you at all either. I actually think you're correct. But my point is at some point you have to stop trying to, make a circle a square and simply just say, it's a circle.
This is kind of the way I looked, or I guess where my thoughts were with Russ and where he's at with the comments I made earlier. Russ early on was very much like a Mahomes. I mean, he extended plays. There was never an actual pocket. It was just him running around, boom, touchdown, But the difference between the three scenarios is Russ is what, 32, 33, 34, somewhere in there.
I think he might even be older.
I think he's 35, I think, right?
So 35, whereas Mahomes is 27, when Herbert's 26. I mean, at some point in really any of these careers, like Josh Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, like they're all going to have to, if they want to play the longevity like a Brady has at the position, they're going to have to change their game at some point. I mean, Mahomes is not going to be able to run around and do what he does. And I do think that to some degree you've seen him kind of change his game this year. They do a lot more screens and quick passes because they don't have that easy, there's Tyreek, let's just throw a fade to him and let him run and get it. And you had to see him kind of change their offense where, I think Russ is going to have to, especially for the extension he signed, kind of change his game in that regard to not be so mobile or run around and which I guess he did do for the first part of the year.
Yes.
And then he started to move around more and you saw him move the ball a bit more. But you don't know how much of that was butting heads with Hackett because he's like, I'm Russell Wilson. I've won league MVPs and gone to the Super Bowl and won.
Yeah. Right.
You're Hackett, like who the hell are you? And whereas if you have a Sean Payton telling him he needs to change some stuff, it might not fall on deaf ears.
Yeah.
I mean, I do that. That is how Russ is successful. That's how he's always been successful. But objectively speaking, Cap, he is 35. So I mean,
34.
You can't have him. He's 34. But you can't have him. You can't have him keep doing that stuff because you're gonna, like in the Chiefs game, he started to run around and then got a concussion. And that could happen at any moment. But you're more susceptible to it the older you get.
That's exactly what I was going to say. He's also more susceptible to suffer worse concussions now as he ages more and more and more. And the other thing that we don't know about Russell Wilson is how his body manages the recovery from concussions. Right. So if you happen to notice, it took him quite some time to come back on the field. In fact, he missed the next game because of that concussion. And so you have to start wondering if perhaps he's one of those unfortunate guys, like, to throw a hockey reference out there, Sidney Crosby, for example, who his body
just breathes on him, dude. He's concussed.
Yeah, exactly. And so
hell of a hockey player.
Yeah, but that's exactly.
I like Tua. I mean, unfortunately,
Eric Lindros is another good example of someone like that.
Thank you. I was going to say, do not let me even hear Sid the Kid, the crybaby Crosby, when you have a better example with Eric Lindros, whose concussions pushed him out.
And his brother Brett as well was very similarly situated where, I mean, ridiculously talented hockey family, but their bodies, the way that they were built, whatever it was, their brains, the way things were situated, you breathed or looked at them the wrong way, they both got concussions and were knocked out of the game. Right, and frankly, it ended both of their careers as a result of injuries and things like that. And Lindros ended his career as a result of the concussions. He just couldn't sustain it. Crosby finally kind of came around to it, but nonetheless, he suffered from the same problem, certainly for the majority of his early stages of his career. And I do wonder if Wilson is now getting to a point where those types of head hits, he just can't recover from them the same way he used to. And as you get more and more concussions, they get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like we saw flashes of what Russell Wilson can still do at that last game against the Chargers. Look, I mean, he threw like a good 70-yard bomb and got the touchdown off of it. So, and that was pretty dang epic. And I feel like the reason why this is, my opinion, why Sean Payton's such a good pick for head coach here is, look at what he did with Drew Brees, and look at that. Look at how that offense ran. Like if you can do the same thing with Russell Wilson, he's still got a little bit of juice in him. And like if Sean Payton just kind of teaches him a little bit more, hey, I don't want you running around anymore. Like you're getting too old. Can't get those hits on you. Just kind of get the ball off as fast as you can, faster. Not a dink and dunk situation because freaking Joe Lombardi. Come on, man. The only downside is that, like, I mean, from a fantasy football perspective, we all know that Sean Payton likes to spread the ball around. Like he does not have a wide receiver one anymore. It's just whoever's open. That's
four guys.
Yeah, you got four
and
guys.
Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
Who I bet will be in Denver before we get into next season.
Oh,
sorry, who?
Taysom Hill.
Oh God,
Sean Payton loves that guy.
He does. Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked. I'm just saying.
Hey, he's a great fantasy pick though, just because he's like he's a QB and a tight end. You never know. You might get lucky on
but every time he would go off and then I'd get him and he'd get like 0.7 points.
Yeah, right. I know, right?
But hey,
but what I'm saying is, it's like I think Sean Payton, like you guys are saying, he's gonna be able to rein in Russell Wilson's prima donna drama a little bit, and he's gonna be able to get him on track to where he needs to be. I feel like, and that's going to be dangerous, for the rest of us for sure.
No pun intended, of course.
Yeah, maybe there was
just a little pun.
Just throwing that in there a little bit.
Salt baying it in.
That's right.
So I did promise a shorter show today, guys, and I truly think that we've kind of pretty much summed up all of the news, all of the stuff coming in. We also have next show to get a little bit deeper into the Super Bowl game, Alex, with your Kansas City Chiefs. So all of you who joined us this evening, I really do want to say a really great thank you for all of you. And any questions, especially specific questions on the Super Bowl, save those for next week and throw those out because it'll give us a little bit more time to pull together some stuff. And frankly, I think you'll also get some additional information in terms of injured players coming back, which will obviously start changing some dynamics in terms of what the Super Bowl will look like.
The Chiefs' initial report was not good.
Although
they didn't practice. It said we did not practice today, but this is an anticipated report, and you're like, "Ooh, I'm glad they have 2 weeks."
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So guys, with that in mind, thank you so much for joining us. And until next week, where the West Side is the best side.
Peace.
Wait a second. Had to say, hey!